What's going on, guys? It's Oregano here, and welcome to the final week of the Summer Showdown. We have the knockouts here, the tournament for the tournament itself, and we're here to take you through the bracket and talk you through our predictions for what's going to happen. Now, as you can see, the bracket's very clearly laid out. The both of the two teams that have been performing very well this season perform very well again. They will once again be in the grand finals again. It, it's hard not to say that that's going to happen, but there could be some there could be some upsets in the cards. So we got our first match here. This starts tomorrow as this video comes out at 6 p.m. Pacific time. You can convert that into your time zone, whichever wherever you're living. But we have the Chengdu Hunters going up against the Dallas Fuel. Both of these teams have had experience not only fighting playing each other, but in this setting. So that there's not really going to be many nerfs going into this. Chengdu have turned around their qualification. They started off pretty rough, but since putting Jinmo and Jimmy on their main DPS line and not experimenting around with people like Kaneki, Jimmy, and there was one other guy they had, but yeah, since sort of consolidating their team, surprise, surprise, they're actually winning now. And the Dallas Shore are just the Dallas Shore. They've been dominating the West region since pretty much the beginning, and that doesn't seem like it's going to be changing soon. So, a lot of people refer to Chengdu Hunters as the Shanghai Dragons Light. They do the same ball comp, but they do it a little bit worse. Obviously, Dallas have also beaten Chengdu in the main melee, but I don't think that that is everything. I mean, as we saw, Dallas have yet to come up with a counter to this ball composition that they threw the June Joust Grand Finals in. And if Chengdu can do it at a high enough level, I think that it could be very competitive.
Yeah, I think that if Chengdu plays to their full potential, which they have the past couple of weeks of qualifiers, I think they could make this a game for Dallas. I don't think they're going to beat Dallas because I think Dallas is just a little bit better than what Chengdu puts out every week. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is sort of the first sweater for the Fuel in any of the tournaments so far.
Absolutely. And I mean, especially with the advantage that we saw it in the Atlanta and the Glad scheme. If you have the ability to pick where you're going next, even if you just lost a map, you know where you're going. You can pick a map which you're confident in, and that results in a load of full holds. And if they can get that going, either team can get that going, we will be going to a map 5, and the game will be decided in control. Which is what most of these high-level teams end up going to. Obviously not at the start of the season, but now we found our groove with all of these teams and their partnerships. It's pretty much going that way at this point. I think this is going to be another 3-2 for the Fuel. I think that they take the first control map and then we go to a series of either full holds or just teams that Chengdu and Dallas picking their favorite maps and winning on them, and then
Mhm.
we go to the last control map and Dallas take the win. That's how I see it going down. It depends on if Chengdu stick with this DPS line. I don't see why they wouldn't, but they've been known to throw curveballs in. That's the only thing that I can see going wrong for Chengdu. Maybe if they're making some strange subs with their support line, but um yeah, it's as long as they keep the same roster, I think they can make this very close. But I don't see this going any other way but 3-2 and Fuel progressing to another winners final.
Who would have seen that coming?
The second game, Atlanta Rain versus Shanghai Dragons. This is I just get that feeling in the bottom of my stomach every time I look at this when I'm thinking about Atlanta because they've done so well to make it this far. They've been turning around their season, and I do think but the logic leaps that you could do for this is Atlanta have made it close against Dallas. Shanghai have beaten Dallas. Dallas have beaten Shanghai. Surely then Atlanta can make it close against Shanghai, but I don't think they can. I don't think Atlanta have really come up against a team like Shanghai to any extent, even going through. Actually, no, they lost to Shanghai in
Yeah.
the June Joust, but they got
Mhm.
3-0'd. So if they've been studying that VOD, if they've been going like they you would be, I think maybe they could have a chance, but I think this is just going to be another continuation of Shanghai dominance. I think maybe Atlanta get a map, But I don't think it's gonna be particularly close outside of Dallas. Not sorry, Atlanta getting maybe one map, maybe on a map
I
that they chose potentially for the
yeah.
start.
Honestly, I think this is again Atlanta just sort of running into a brick wall for the second tournament in a row, which is unfortunate because, like you said, they're finally finding their footing and they're kind of turning their season around and looking like the Atlanta Reign that we thought were going to come out at the beginning of the season. But now, again, they have to play Shanghai. And again, I think it's just another stone wall that they're going to just run into and kind of bounce off of and not be able to recover fully until the second elimination round, if at all.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go 3-1 for this one. I could easily see this also being a 3-0 to the Dragons, so
I think I agree. I think they take one map, but I think, like you said, it's one of the maps, like the first loser's pick. I think they take it, and then Shanghai takes the next two.
yeah, for sure. So we're gonna go in reverse order. We're gonna go for the first elimination round first. That's not the order they're gonna be aired in, but we're gonna do that. So we're gonna go. Is the Chengdu Hunters going up against the Atlanta Reign? Now, I think Atlanta have a more favorable match here, and I think that they could actually beat the Chengdu Hunters. I think having the experience of playing Shanghai again and playing a similar composition that Chengdu run, I think that they can come out on top on this one. I think they have like for like checks for a lot of that Chengdu Hunters team. I think the only maybe check that they don't have is maybe their tank line, but I mean Hawk and Gator have just been rolling through. They've come into their own at this point in the season, and I think Iris and Masa have been like significantly improved. Iris has been insane so far, especially in the knockouts. And then obviously you got Pelican Kai, their DPS line. So I think they could win this, but it just depends on how down in the dumps they are against from losing to the Dragons, really.
And I think it also depends on what version of Chengdu do we see come out. Do we see the sort of slow, sluggish, losing Chengdu Hunters, or do we see that Chengdu Hunters that we saw the past couple of weeks when they started to turn around in qualifiers and actually make it through knockouts, beating, I think it was XL?
They beat the Soul Dynasty.
That's right. But still coming out and beating a team like Seoul uh, to get into the tournament. So do we see that sort of like fire under their ass Chengdu, or do we see the Chengdu that we saw maybe a couple months ago up until the end of qualifiers?
I think another thing that you have to take into account of this is will Atlanta do what nobody else in the East region has figured out yet? Shoot Jinmu when he's playing Pharah in the air because
Yeah.
Chengdu have literally got to this tournament because the Philadelphia Fusion and literally the Seoul Dynasty did not contest Jinmu in the air. And they have somebody like Kai, they have someone like Pelican, they have the DPS line to contest Jinmu and neutralize him really. And then what do Chengdu do when Jinmu can't really perform? They put in Jimmy. Jimmy is a significantly weaker. I'm not gonna say he's bad. Obviously, he's an Overwatch level player, but he's a significant downgrade on Jinmu. So what? I think if they have can force them into a situation where they have to sub out Jinmu, I think Atlanta Reign take this.
Yeah, I think so too. But it comes down to can Kai or can Pelican maybe play the Echo to the level to counter the Pharah because I don't think either of them really have a Pharah.
No.
So it's going to come down to can they play the Echo to the level and stay in the air with Jinmu at all times.
I think you need either the Echo or you need Ash. If Kai can play Ash on the level that we know he can, and know we've seen him do in the Valiant and we've seen him do in Atlanta, I think either one of those two can neutralize Jinmu. I think this is gonna be. I'm gonna go 3-2. I think that this is gonna be a really close one, but Atlanta Reign squeak through.
I think so too. I think I agree with that. I think that it's going to be I think all of these games are going to be pretty close regardless.
All right. Going into the winners round, we have the winners finals. We have another matchup of the Dallas Show against the Shanghai Dragons.
What is this, the fourth time in a
This
row
this is
now?
the fourth time, yes.
Oh my god.
Um, can Dallas have a counter to this ball composition? And if they can, I think they win this. But if they don't, I think they lose. That's
I think they've been studying this ball comp and maybe like in the background, even though we haven't really seen it come out during league play. I think they've been practicing a ball comp or a version of ball comp uh, to counter this. I think they've been looking forward to playing Shanghai again for, like we said, the fourth time.
yep.
So I think at some point you have to start practicing ball comp to counter that fully. So I think this is where we're gonna finally see like a better Wrecking Ball Diva or Wrecking Ball Zarya or something, or Wrecking Ball Reinhardt from Dallas that we haven't seen yet.
I I think so. I the only thing that worries me about this is they beat them once. And then I think they beat them again because if Shanghai realize that this ball comp isn't working, then the Dallas just wins on every other comp. As we saw in the June joust, the Dallas still 3-0'd the Shanghai Dragons in the first winners round. Um, there is
Hmm.
literally no other composition in the game that Shanghai Dragons have tried which has actually worked against Dallas. Because Fearless has just been good on Reinhardt, on Winston. Maybe he can do they can get him on Orisa, but I think they beat them on the Orisa comp as well. It's just this bull comp has been their magic formula for beating Dallas, and if Dallas can counter
Hmm.
that, I don't think Shanghai get another they get the back to back.
I don't think so either.
Um I'm gonna go Dallas winning this 3-1 or 3-2. Oh, I'm gonna go 3-1.
3-1 Dallas. I think I'm gonna give it to him 3-2 because, like I said, I think this Shanghai team is a force to be reckoned with, and I don't think that you should count out the fact that they could just completely berate Dallas and win.
I think if they can get down their isolation picks well enough, they can definitely get a few maps or even win. I think Fearless is one of their biggest targets going to take out, and then their support line. Dark Sparkle and Doha are amazing on their own, but they're nowhere near as good without this team composition that Dallas have perfected. So yeah,
Hmm.
we're going on to the elimination round two now. So we have once again the Atlanta Reign going up against the Shanghai
Why is it
Dragons.
just the same four teams every time?
Oh.
This is a complaint I might have for a different video, but I
So
have
I think
some.
this is a 3-0. I think
I think so too.
I don't think Atlanta are gonna be able to. They're facing the same team again, and they
Oh,
know that they're in their heads. They're going to be in their heads. I feel
yeah,
so sorry for Atlanta.
I do too.
Okay,
Actually, you know what? Can I just take
go
a
on,
second? I know this is a Preds video,
go
but
on.
I'd just like to say this really quick and complain about this a little bit. This formula for tournaments and knockouts at this point, for me, is getting very stale. We have seen the same 4 or 5 teams every tournament qualify, and the same 2 teams for 3 tournaments now, from May until now, make grands. When are we gonna see different teams? I understand that these teams are the top of the top, and I'm not debating that Dallas is one of the best teams in the league or Shanghai is the best APAC team. But man, I'm tired of Dallas Shanghai grands,
I think
and it's ugh.
I think another thing you have to look at, especially you go back to last year. This time last year, we had Philadelphia Fusion against the Paris Eternal in the final. Like what we that at least last year. I mean, sure, it was the same qualification process. There were a bit few more games, but we just didn't have the points difference, and I think the points difference is making a huge factor in how these teams come into it because they're looking at this. Say, oh God, Dallas are in another final. Okay, so that puts them at least 2 more points ahead of us, and then they go into the next knockouts, and it's like we're just essentially playing catch up for the rest of the season, no matter how well we do, because Dallas are just getting to the final every single time, and it's the same with Shanghai.
Yeah, and especially more for Shanghai than Dallas because there are teams that can catch up to Dallas in the West, at least. I Houston, San Francisco. San Francisco finally turns it on at some point. Atlanta can still catch up, and a few other teams can still catch up. But especially for Shanghai and APAC, with how little teams are in APAC, I mean, it's basically Chengdu can catch up, the Spark can catch up, and maybe Philly can catch up, and that's it. And even then, it's very out of reach for all three of those teams.
Because they just get, even if they lose, they get 2 more points, and then they're going 3-1, 4-0. That puts them 5 or 6 points in every single cycle ahead of every single team, and that's a cycle and a half for these teams that aren't getting to these tournaments.
Exactly, and I think at some point, maybe this should be also a separate video where either we or I go more in depth about this, but eventually, and hopefully next year with more of the offline coming back because of restrictions being lifted a lot more, they have to switch up the way they do this at some point. Because as cool as Knockout Sunday is, I mean, I go into every Knockout Sunday basically knowing who's going to make it. Like, even if a new team is in there, like Washington or this year or this cycle with Paris, like, I had no doubt going in that, Dallas and Shanghai and even Atlanta were gonna be in it. I think the only surprise was that Chengdu made it over New York or Seoul, which again would have been the same thing as June Joust. It would have been New York again.
Yeah, it's been, yeah. I don't think that, and especially with the lack of games as well, because I mean, obviously for the players' sake, it's better that they play less games, but I think there needs to be some kind of compensation with how many points you get per win, rather than, or maybe even giving points for, like, I don't know. There needs to be a restructuring of how they do the point system somewhere, because there's no way. It feels impossible at this point for some teams to even get a
Yeah,
chance looking. Yeah, we could go. We will definitely go into more depth in that at a future date, probably at the end of the season, and probably after at least the qualifiers have been done for the Countdown Cup. But we have a grand final to predict. Um, the same grand final that we said that we've had for the past two cycles. But who do you think wins this one? Then?
I I think I think it's Dallas again. Honestly, I think that Dallas is, especially after if they beat Shanghai once. I don't think Shanghai is going to be able to run that ball comp against them in grands and not have a counter. And like you said, I think Dallas beats them on every other comp, including the Orisa composition or even May Rush. If we see May Rush again ever, I don't think Shanghai has an answer for Dallas still past Ball Ryan or Ball Orisa, and
Yeah,
that's scary.
it's this Dallas team just keeps on rolling. Nobody knew that they were going to be this good coming into the season. We had a feeling that they would be good because of their pickup of Fearless and their pickup of Sparkle, but I don't think anybody could have seen how well that they were going to be on pretty much every composition that you could
Yeah,
think of.
I I don't think anybody saw them as even a playoff contender. And now I think, in my opinion, they have the best shot at winning grands
Yep.
next to a possible three-peat.
So I'm. I think this is another seven mapper. Um,
You think it goes 4-3?
I
I
think
thought. Mm,
I Dallas have been known to drop maps in these grand finals, and if Shanghai can get in their head, even if Dallas have a counter, I
Hmm.
think that they will end up dropping a few maps, especially if Dallas takes the lead like they did. It's going to be consistently Shanghai's pick, so if Shanghai gets a pick every single time,
That's
uh,
true.
they will get some maps back, I think.
I think it's I think it's 6 maps, only because I think maybe Shanghai takes control map 1 because of that ball comp and the ability to, get on point very quickly with wrecking ball and things like that. But I think after that, I think Dallas kinda just take it in stride and just start hammering down on Shanghai. Maybe Shanghai gets one more map after that because of how well Shanghai plays in general. But I can't see this going to 7 for once.
Alright, so we're gonna have a repeat of the main Melee final. Um, so that was our predictions. It feels very much like we've just predicted the June Joust all over again, except this time with pandas. If you enjoyed this video, please do hit that like button. Don't forget to submit your pick'ems. We only have a day and 7 hours to get these in. So if you want a chance to get the Lucio statue, the $500, then make sure you get this done. As always, subscribe if you're new. Hit the like button, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.
See ya.